There were some great matches last week, but with all the drama coming in Division B, all the eyes were on the trio of Luminosity, OpTic, and Rise Nation. We haven't seen OpTic versus Rise yet, and it's going to be a hell of a matchup. But for now, I just want to know, what have we learned so far about those squads in Division B? Momo, what do you got for those three?
First things first, all of them have weaknesses. OpTic Gaming, they were pushed to a Game 4. Should have been a Game 5 already in Week 1. Rise, they get reverse swept. And Luminosity, they kind of got shunned to the side from OpTic Gaming. But we've also seen very promising things for all these teams as well. So it's great to see the competition so high, but no one is perfect. And I'm excited for, the second week here in Division B. But if I'm going to say one thing, I think Rise are still the best team in the world.
All right, some strong words right there from Momo. Maven, what do you have?
I do want to reiterate his first point. Yes, I think one of the biggest things is we saw vulnerabilities for all of these teams. But if you go team by team and what kind of stood out for me, we knew OpTic would be good. We weren't sure how good. After that Luminosity series, they are absolutely showed to me they have some of the best talent in the world. They can be the best team in the world. They could win the final 3 tournaments. It is possible. I think there is that much talent there. We'll just have to wait and see. But we've seen the potential, despite the fact that it was maybe a weaker week. That one matchup against LG, that was such a crisp 3-0. It made me feel really good about this OpTic team. For Luminosity, you still look like a great team, but I was disappointed in that performance versus OpTic.
Yeah, I'm a little worried.
Even if I thought OpTic was going to win that, which I do, the 3-0 in that fashion, I have concerns. I had concerns coming in, but that series alone almost doubled down on my previous concerns of whether Formal was the right fit for this team, whether he was nearly as good at this game. Where's the sign going to come from if John is going, inconsistent at times? Can JCap step it up and go against a secondary AR like a Methods, against something like a Gunless? And I think the answer might be no. And that is what I'm really worried about against the top competition. For Rise, I think they're still one of the best teams in the world. I just think if they had beat E United there in like a 3-0 fashion, I would still share the opinion with Phil they're the best team in the world. But you did see a little bit of a vulnerability there. The fact that they were reverse swept is kind of shocking to me. I was really surprised to see that happen. I don't want to put too much stock in one series, but I was very surprised to see that happen. Granted, I did love the banter and the trash talk between Clayster and Looney, but it boils down to what we both kind of said at the beginning. All teams have vulnerabilities, but all this stuff I talked about, kind of the biggest takeaways I had from those 3 rosters.
All right, so, well, how about this? Let's switch it up a little bit. Let us grade each team's performance. It's their first week playing on land with this new team. How did each team do? Maven, we'll start with you.
I'm going to give OpTic an A, only not an A+, because just how shaky a couple of the maps were against teams that I think they should have throttled. Like, if you can come in and throttle LG, where is that against Unilad and Tainted Minds? That's the only thing that shocks me a little bit. Like, don't play down to your opponents. Come in and hammer them. But still, it's an A. For Rise Nation, I'm gonna go with a B+. You can't get reverse swept by United if you're the best team in the world. You're coming off the victory at Seattle. You should come in here and assert your dominance. You should not get reverse swept in that position. And, just take a look at some of the stats. TJ, Slasher, even Gunless, like, where are those dominating numbers that I'll look at? Like, you see that on OpTic.
They were still pretty good.
Yeah, you look at OpTic, it's like a 1.25 across the board for, like, everybody. It's kind of insane to see what they're putting up. Granted, I know the competition not quite the same to this point. So I'll give them what I said, B? B+. B+. What
do you want to be? What do you want? What's your final answer?
We'll go B+.
Okay.
For Luminosity, B-.
You're just still going to give them a B.
I'm thinking the same, Joe.
I'm going to still give them a B- because I think they're still going to finish top 3 in this group. It really comes down to that OpTic series just left a sour taste in my mouth. Like, this is a team that was consistently top 3, never really getting blown out by anyone except an occasional map from here to there. I know it's one series, and I hate putting so much stock in one series, but my God, like, fight back a little bit. It's like OpTic was just beating a dead body. I'll still go B- though.
All right, so you got an A for OpTic, a B+ for Rise, and a B- for Luminosity. Momo, how do you grade them?
I'm going to be a little bit more harsh on the teams here. I think for an A for OpTic, I think, yes, it was great what they did in their final series. But against Tainted Minds, we expect the 3-0. Against Unilad, they were pushed, and I felt like it wasn't that convincing. I feel like it could have been a Game 5. For me, I'm giving them a B. I'm giving these guys a B. I think they can do a lot better.
You think you're giving OpTic a B?
I'm giving OpTic a B. I think they can do better. Yes, they've had a great week, but I want to see these come in and destroy teams like Unilad. Moving on, I look towards Rise Nation, and I go to their individual plays, and I think of what they can do. And again, just being a little bit harsher on these guys, the stats weren't great. Like Maven said, I think TJ really needs to step it up. The fact that they got reverse swept says a lot as well. As the best team in the world, coming in and having that happen, I'm going to go for a B- for these guys. And then moving on to Luminosity. Yes, these guys I feel are still up there, still one of the best. They have a lot to kind of still develop. But for these guys and the way they performed, the way they kind of got smoked by OpTic, I'm going to go with a C. For me, in Europe, a C is a pass, but it's not a great grade. And the reason that I want to give them that is, yes, they reverse swept E United. We saw some good stuff, like 1v3s from Formal here or there, but it wasn't that convincing. They kind of beat the teams that they need to, but they went 1-to-1 on the teams that really were going to push them. So I'm giving Luminosity a C.
I just feel like if Luminosity is a C on your scale, like, does that mean every other team outside of E United is an F?
I would say for...
They all have to be F across the board.
I think for Luminosity, it's a C.
I agree with them.
If played like that, I would give them like an A-star triple times 7.
I expected a lot more from Luminosity. I definitely did. I mean, I heard about their struggles online, but they just seem a little bit out of whack, and you have to look at guys like Formal and John. I think Slack's the guy who's sort of leading the way in the KD. The two superstars have to step up. If John, yes, he had a great first series, but he has to play that way throughout this entire time. Those two need to be the duo. So moving on, we're going to talk about a little bit more focus here. I want to talk about the duo of Octane and Methods. What would you grade those guys throughout this first week?
I'm going to go first on this one. I think for Octane, I think, again, excluding the Luminosity series, I think he just did what he needed to do. He had more slaying power around him in the likes of Scump and Crim, so he's not expected to put a 1.3 up like he was on Luminosity. For Octane, I'd give him a B. It was good, and I think he definitely picked it up in the LG series as he went 29 and 10 in the hard points. Moving on to Methods, though, I'm giving Methods an A for his performance. His Search and Destroy alone for me credits him with that, but his respawn's been there and thereabouts as well. He's done the slaying power, he's put in the objective work, but I think his Search and Destroy, which bodes kind of like a 2.5 plus KD, is ridiculous. A for Methods, B for Octane.
I'm going A+ for both. It comes down to this for me. You were joining an OpTic Gaming team, and when you join a team like OpTic Gaming, Merc can probably attest to this, you are under more scrutiny than you've ever been in your entire career. There's more pressure on you than you've ever been in your entire career. And they maybe look like the two best players on their team compared to Crim6 and Scump over this first week. And then you look at LG, where like there's not as much, more of the focus on the pressure you could say is for, let's say, Crim and Seth getting rid of Formal, getting rid of Karma. And who comes through and shows up and has one of the most dominant hard points and the Methods with the dominant S&D. I'm talking about Octane and Map 1. Like, they've been performing so well. It's almost like they weren't phased by the pressure, and that's why I find so impressive. Like, they're an A+ in the stats. They're an A+ with dealing with the transition to OpTic Gaming. There are many people that could fold under the pressure. They did not. They were electric.
All right, so you're going with A+ for both of those guys, and, you know, a little bit different on the side of Momo. But the last question, I mentioned it earlier about how Rise and OpTic haven't played yet. We get to watch that later this week. So last question for you, Maven and Momo. I want a prediction. Who's winning between OpTic and Rise? Maven, let's start with you.
Before our previous episode of Trading Shots, I said that I thought OpTic was going to finish at the top. And I thought that they would first lose their first match to Rise, then win the second. They'd have to take a little bit of time to build. I change it now. I think OpTic's going to win this. After seeing them through this first week and seeing how dominant they can be and seeing some of the vulnerabilities in Rise, I think OpTic are going to take it right now. They have so much talent. They're in that honeymoon period. I love what I saw, man, and I really.
It's hard not to.
I think they're gonna take the series over Rise. I really do.
All right, Momo.
I'm gonna go with Rise. I'm gonna disagree. It's hard to choose Rise right now because of the reverse sweep that's just happened and what OpTic's done to LG. But I think Rise go away. They look at the series against obviously E United, and they learn from it. They shouldn't have been swept like that. It's not Rise. They're better than this. I expect better from TJ next week. OpTic, they're great. But they're such a new team, I think their flaws will be found. And if there's a team to do it, it's going to be Rise Nation. I still have them finishing top of Division B. I still have them as the best team in the world. But it's going to be a great game. I expect 5 maps out of it. I'm going with Rise Nation on this one.
And I'll admit that I may be falling victim to some recency bias. Like you mentioned, like Rise are coming off the getting reverse swept, and OpTic are coming off maybe the most dominant 3-0 we've had so far in Division B. It's just hard to ignore those things. Like these are the last 2 things that happened, the last 2 matches that we saw before the next week continues. They couldn't be much more different outcomes, and both of their matches were against the other top 2 teams in the division. I can't ignore it. I can't.
No, definitely so. So that was a long grand finals question, so let's dissect it. When you sort of graded the teams, Phil, I like your answers more. I like that you were a little bit more harsh. The only thing I didn't like about it, OpTic Gaming, definitely an A. They performed up to their standards, and you gave maybe a little bit too much harsh
They won all the matches
to Rise, because Rise, they were perfect
nearly pushed
before
to
their
game
E-United
5.
match. But I like what you said about Luminosity. Then you sort of grade the players. I think I agree with you there, Maven. I think both Methods and Octane handled it perfectly. An A+ first week for those guys, and then last but
What more
not
could they have done
least-
though? Quickly though, what could Octane
Exactly.
have done?
I agree with you.
What else could they
If
have
you
done?
take out the Luminosity series, they weren't. I mean, they had great S&Ds. It was against Tainted Minds, and I just think
Methods
I
had a
expected that
3.57
it should have gone Game 5. I
All right, for
expected
you, Nolan.
more.
All right, I agree that it seems at
need to see him
times
testing
they could
more,
be
too.
a little bit slow, but
True.
when it was with the big dogs, they stepped up, and that's exactly what you wanted to see if you were an OpTic fan. And then lastly, who's going to win between OpTic and Rise? I have to go with Maven here. I think that OpTic wins this first match just due to the momentum. However, I do think that Rise and OpTic split this series. I think it comes down to a tiebreaker to see who gets first and second. But for this first set of games, I think Rise takes it. So I'm going to give 2 points to Maven, 1 point to Phil.
Later,
Maven,
Phil.